Hey friends, welcome to the Canyon Pathways podcast, where we invite you to live like a son and lead like a father. Canyon Pathways is a global community of men on the journey from the striving of servanthood to the freedom of sonship as we traverse the canyon that is midlife leadership. My name is Noel Boucher, and I'm the founder and part of the leadership team for this venture, and I'll be your guide throughout this podcast as we explore and discover what it means to live like a son so we can lead like a compassionate father. Welcome to this episode of the Canyon Pathways podcast. Glad to be with you. Excited to dive in here. We've got two types of episodes here at the CP Pod. The first one we call the Field Note episode, where we look at one of our field notes, which is a short essay on a word that embodies a concept that we believe is important, if not central, to this journey into sonship, to making the move from servanthood to sonship and beginning to live like a son and heir, not a servant or hired hand. And second type of episode is a conversation episode where we invite onto the podcast one of our Canyon Pathways brothers from around the world to not only share their story, but look at this topic and deepen our understanding of, through their wisdom, of this topic. And so we've got a great episode coming on the heels of this one, which is a conversation with Patrick Rooney in London, and Sherman Bradley's going to lead that. But right now we're looking at our field note on wealth. We're looking at wealth today. And, it's an interesting one, of course, and an important one, especially in midlife leadership, because one of the things that we're doing in this stage of life is building wealth, managing wealth, however we define that. We're building and managing assets, not only in our household, maybe for our extended family and maybe even generations, but also in our enterprises, in our various ventures, whether it's simply our career or the business that we are leading or the business that we're building. That is, no matter how we think about wealth, that is a component, at least, of what we're stewarding. And yet that can be a place of tension for us, not simply just the pressure of building and managing and stewarding and looking to the future and bounding risk and moving through all the vicissitudes of life, especially in leadership and in the markets. But also the topic itself can create some tension, just spiritually, as ones who are looking to live like sons of God, lead like fathers in the footsteps of the Father. How do we think about wealth? Because on the one hand, we start with this idea that wealth is a good thing. We know that we need resources. We know that there is a place for building those resources and saving them, stewarding them, investing them, maximizing them. We see that in Scripture. We see plenty of places where wealth was counseled to be built all the way throughout, story after story, whether it's Joseph in ancient Egypt or Solomon in ancient Israel, on and on. We see the stewarding of resources, of assets, of what is, by most definitions, wealth. And at the same time, we see warnings against wealth. We see Proverbs counseling us in a seemingly different way to not chase after wealth narrowly defined, to not let wealth overwhelm, and the desire for wealth overwhelm our hearts and our minds. And, of course, there's plenty of things in Scripture. We can, obviously, the words of Jesus, how difficult it is for those who have wealth to enter into the kingdom of God. We see different maxims and bits of wisdom scattered throughout human history, warning about wealth as something that can harm us. Schopenhauer said wealth is like seawater. The more we drink, the thirstier we become. Theodore Parker, this one jumped out at me. Wealth and want equally harden the human heart. So it's something to maybe not avoid, but to be wary of and to not chase after. At the same time, that's seemingly what we're doing every day. Again, we're managing, we're stewarding, we're building. And we're being given continually ways to do that, counsel on how to do that. If we're in midlife leadership, some of us are walking through valleys and canyons, and that might be a financial one, that might be a setback, that might be a bankruptcy, that might be a venture that is failing and being wound down, or we're in a stage of building, and how we think about that. We're constantly being given advice. Warren Buffett famously said diversification may preserve wealth, but concentration builds wealth. So again, we're being advised to focus, to go deeper, to build generational wealth. Yet at the same time, how difficult it is for those who have wealth to enter the kingdom of God. So tricky. How do we think about this? How do we manage not only the opportunities, but the anxieties? How do we steward resources and assets and at the same time walk with contentment, even as we're focusing and working and maybe living into a calling to turn the tides generationally for our children and grandchildren? How do we think about it? Well, let's dive in. We thought about it, obviously, in the field note, and it's an important one. We've looked at other topics like the word invest. What does it mean to invest? How do we steward that? Expenses. What are expenses? Why do they seem to overwhelm us at times in midlife as we lead, as we raise our children, as we send them off? How do we think about this? So wealth, tricky, but we dove into it in our field note, eager to share some of the findings and insights with you. So let's go. Here's our field note on wealth. Wealth. Your wealth is where your friends are. Plautus. In June of 1999, I moved to New York City at the age of 22 with 2 bags of clothes, a few books, and a cashier's check for about $1,000 that I'd been saving up over the previous months. With the aid of others, I procured a small room in someone else's small apartment in Harlem, and thereupon set upon the next 2 tasks, opening a bank account and finding a job. Both took longer than I hoped. After almost 3 weeks, I was still unemployed, but more urgently, still had no bank account in which to deposit my small savings. Without the proper documents demonstrating residency to open a simple checking account, I was penniless. However, I was building relationships across the city, and around that time I met a young couple who both had successful careers going. At a Bible study in their swanky apartment overlooking the East River, I mentioned in passing my banking plight. My new friend said rather casually, "Go see my guy at Smith Barney in Midtown. He'll fix you up." Surprised, I clarified to him that we were talking about funds in the range of $1,000, not $100,000. An important detail, I thought. After all, he was sending me to an investment advisory firm, not a local credit union. If I knew one thing about the name Smith Barney, it was that they made money the old-fashioned way. They earned it. Seeing as I had yet earned hardly anything, I didn't like the chances of this plan working out. But my friend assured me, "Just tell him I sent you, and he'll take care of you." So later that week, I marched down to West 48th Street in Manhattan, met with my friend's financial advisor on the 35th floor, rather timidly handed over my check, and watched with significant amazement as he took it, set me up with an account number, and shook my hand as we ended the meeting. I walked out feeling like $1,000,000, even though my total net worth remained unchanged at roughly 0.1% of that. Why was that? Why did I feel wealthier in that moment? As I've reflected on that question, the answer I keep coming back to is summed up in one word: access. In a short span of time, I gained access to a few things. Specifically, my money that had been locked up on a slip of paper, as well as the services of a major financial firm going forward. But more broadly, I realized I had access to solutions, to answers, to provision through the relationships I now had. I began to have a sense that the social capital I already possessed, let alone that which would accrue in the coming years, had value that, though difficult to quantify, might possibly exceed other assets that could more easily be modeled, measured, and manipulated. I was reminded of that experience recently, while surrounded by 20 other men around a fire at a Canyon Pathways retreat. As I sat there and took in the environment, one filled with peace, camaraderie, restfulness, receiving, the joy and contentment I felt overflowed, and one word kept coming to mind to describe what I was feeling: wealthy. It surprised me, because I hadn't previously used the term to describe what felt like feelings. Yet the more I considered it, I realized what I was experiencing wasn't simply some ephemeral emotional response, but rather a state of being formed by very tangible realities. In that moment, I was subconsciously recognizing that I was well cared for in the present and would be in the future, come what may, because I had access through these relationships to whatever I might need. These men around me from diverse places with diverse abilities and experiences together formed a community that could protect me and assist me with any problem that might arise. Legal problem? Check. Financial problem? Check. Real estate matter? Plumbing issue? Medical question? Car problem? Relationship challenge? Check, 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 and check. And more than simply being protected, this relational access provided opportunity for growth and increase. Should I need someone smarter or wiser than me, that was there in this account. Someone better at communicating with others, or more accomplished at the grill, or more creative in their design thinking, or precise in their business acumen. All I had to do was ask and receive. I had access. I possessed wealth. As it turns out, to describe such a relationally rich environment as wealth is not a clever cop-out or a flippant fable about finances. It actually reorients our approach to the concept more closely to its essence. Though a typical dictionary definition might read an abundance of valuable possessions, the word wealth comes to us from the Middle English, meaning well-being. Later, it was combined with the Proto-Germanic th, akin to our word health. It is the state of being well cared for, well protected, well provisioned. Of course, this well-being, this wealth, is precarious in our mortal age and constantly buffeted by circumstances, by accusations, by adversaries, physical, spiritual, and imagined. And in a world where faithful friendship is elusive and isolation and anxiety are ubiquitous, we default to an individualized, exclusively monetized working definition of wealth that can keep us striving, grasping, yearning for more, because no amount of fiat funds is enough to fend off the fears, to produce the affirmation, to eliminate the loneliness. These insecurities are ubiquitous in the life of a servant, a hired hand, a slave. Droughts, diseases, downturns, deficiencies, dictatorial decisions can all strike at any moment, no matter what has been accomplished or accumulated. But a son is an heir. A son is in relationship, not a contractual one, a continual one. A son is not grasping for gain, but receiving residual benefits. A son is not sitting envying neighbors in the zip code, but expectantly waiting to inherit while passing through on the journey. And as sons, we're called, privileged really, to steward that wealth that's been placed in trust for us by managing the relationships, the lives and gifts and divine image existing within those relationships, then make up the assets in that trust account. Every phone call to check in, every act of assistance or encouragement, every confidence kept, obstacle overcome, or relationship reconciled on behalf of a brother in need. This is the stewardship of sonship. It is the stewardship that our forebear Cain forfeited, but that the Son of God redeemed and returned to us. Now, we can exist as a son of God, from moment to moment, an inheritor of wealth. Moreover, we can seek out and gather with other sons of God and access the experience of that wealth today. And unlike that old Smith-Barney account, no fees will be deducted from the balance. He did all this so you would never say to yourself, I have achieved this wealth with my own strength and energy. Deuteronomy 8:17. There's our field note on wealth. Hope you've already taken away a few things personally from that. It was a fun one to write, and here's three findings that were important to me in that exploration. The first one is, the general thing that I think we have to recognize. Actually, this is a preface to the three findings for me, but just the idea in the first couple paragraphs that wealth, anytime we think about wealth, anytime we're managing what we have, whether it is financial or reputational or accomplishments or places we've come from, the progress, whatever that is, it is always tricky and at risk of devolving into comparison. And, that for me, I was mentioning that story in New York. And, when you're not where you want to be for whatever reason, or you're moving towards a goal, or if you've accomplished it, that trap of comparison is always there. And I think we need to identify that there won't be a contentment and perhaps an attainment of the wealth in the way that we're speaking about it, that we're discovering here, if we're falling into comparison. Perhaps one of the ways to not only experience contentment, gratitude, but wealth itself, a sense of well-being, is to avoid the trap of comparison. Yeah, it was easy for me looking at my friends in New York who, here I was, young. And so like a lot of people just starting out, just scrapping, kind of scraping by, but building, even you don't have anything. When you're young, you kind of feel like, hey, it's okay because I'm building. Even if I've got, maybe it's a non-zero number, but zero point 0.1 of where I'm going to get to. It's still tricky, sitting in that flat overlooking Manhattan from Queens, in that point, and looking at my friends, what they had. That can be tricky. So comparison is kind of a thing we got to think about anytime we have wealth. But really, the first finding was, what is wealth? It's a sense, it's an availability, it's an experience of access. My friend got me access to his bank, to his financial institution, to his advisor, to his people. It was access. I felt instantly a bit wealthier, even though the asset base hadn't changed, at least financially or tangibly. There was an intangible increase of something that brought me forward, and that access was what I felt. And for a lot of us, that's where we're not feeling wealthy. And it can be separate, completely separate and apart from our financial situation. We might have more than the net worth than we set out to accomplish at this stage in midlife, and yet we don't have access to something that we thought we would, whether it's a place, people, a person, a relationship, or just peace. We don't have access to it yet. We've accomplished all these things, and we have this asset base. We have this level of financial security. We have these accomplishments, and yet we don't have peace yet. And that's the source of frustration. That's the thing we don't have access to. That's why we don't feel wealthy. So we keep going through the same cycle on the same hamster wheel. That's something we struggle with. Of course, some of us have had continual pattern of maybe what we view as some failures or setbacks, or running into an obstacle, that we don't have access to that next thing, to that place, to that peace. And maybe what we want is peace, and yet we're translating this to that thing, those tangible markers of accomplishment, those possessions. That's what we're saying. That's what we're confused about. That's what we're being deceived to think is the thing that we want access to. But it's really peace. It's really a sense of love, of being the beloved. But it is access. That is, I think we discover here in this field note, the thing that that wealth does. You can start to hear Tevye here belting out, "If I were a rich man." It's access to that reputation, to that place, to that community, to that ability to procure something. So access, it is something. But what is the access? What is the thing we want access to? That's maybe part of the question. When do I get when am I at the place where I've got the wealth I desire? Well, it's when I have access to something. What's the thing I'm looking for access to? Tough when we're a servant, but when we're son and heir, we have access. So that was the first thing. This connection to the sense of wealth is at root access. But moving forward, secondly, we found in the word itself that what is wealth? It's not some level of net worth. It's not some financial level that we set out to attain. It's not, again, possessions or connections. It is simply well-being. That's what wealth is. Literally, it is well-being. And we start to feel that well-being when we feel what? Taken care of, protected. That is why financial security is so important to us as human beings because we feel like we'll have some level of protection, some margin, some buffer from the potential chaos that could befall us tomorrow or next year. We've got protection from it. And yet here we're discovering that it's deeper than that. It's different than that. Because we live in this world where so much of the wealth that we're after is again just fiat. It's just created. It's on a whim. I mean, we live in the age of crypto where it's like, my goodness, this could be gone tomorrow. Um, and we constantly feel that. But that's why we don't feel well-being, which is what we're really after, which is what wealth is. And I experienced that, as I shared in the field note, at this Canyon Pathways retreat and at many retreats, but the particular one we came out of, I'm surrounded by relationships that are real, not fake. I'm surrounded by people who appreciate me, who accept me, who celebrate me, and they bring in this group collectively different skills, different abilities, different resources, different connections, different wisdom that all is available to me. I have access to it through relationship, through friendship, through bonds with other men, and then that extends into other places, other relationships. I have connection, I have protection, I have access, I have, no matter what comes, come what may, I've got someone I can go to can help me with this thing. That's the well-being that we desire. That is true wealth. Closely connected, obviously, as we see, linguistically to health. And of course, that's where, as I see more and more articles all the time, maybe my eyes just being drawn to them here in midlife. But it seems like they're increasing that, the one thing that you really want, here's what true wealth is health, physical health, being healthy, because someone who is unhealthy uh, would give every penny they have simply to be healthy again. So this connection between wealth and health. The connection, obviously, we can extend that out even further and spend hours on this topic, but the connection between physical health and mental health, the connection between well-being in our relationships to physical health and mental health. Not being isolated, not being excluded, uh, not being ostracized is one of the most important things to our mental health. And so here we see again the connection between health, wealth, wealth being well-being, relationally having connections. And that's one of the problems. Canyon Pathways is recognizing. That's what we're doing here. We're saying midlife leadership is hard. Living in this mortal age is hard. The call and the invitation to us is from the striving of servanthood to the freedom and rest of sonship, of being a son and heir, of being a son of God, of moving to that place where we're living with the Son, who is the first of many brothers in this new covenant. That's what's being offered to us, and yet it is so hard. The difficulty, the obstacle is we're in this canyon of midlife where we are continually, especially in leadership, when we're now in midlife leadership, the leadership's lonely. So we're feeling alone. We're feeling ostracized. We feel like relationships are tenuous. Maybe there's pressures that are fraying some of those relationships that exist. And already I'm feeling alone. Like no one understands me. No one can get my journey. I alone bear the pressure of managing this thing. How much more do we need the well-being of wealth embodied by relationships, not simply metrics, not simply quantitative data, not being pushed into that isolated and ostracized leadership where the way I'm really going to define wealth is simply the zeros in this bank account, but rather being invited and sitting at the table where we recognize our wealth is in our relationships. That's a beautiful concept. It's changed my heart. It's changed my perspective. And it's been beautiful. And of course, the third finding there is that it's tied to this journey into living like a son of God. Why? Because a son is an heir of things that are coming, an inheritor of things that are already real, yet coming. And we see that, of course, in Luke 15, as we see many things about this reality of living like a son that we're exploring, that we're discovering, that we're getting a taste of when the father comes out to the elder sibling who's isolated, he's working hard, he's building wealth, he's preserving wealth, he's feeling like he's the only one doing it. He's feeling like he's alone in that exhaustion of that labor and that isolated leadership. He's now growing angry and finding it difficult to experience compassion, to experience joy. And the younger son comes back who wasted so much, and he grows angry, and the father comes out to him, says, come in and celebrate. And what happens? That angry outburst. Why would I do that? Why? You're going to throw the other half at him now. Where's my fatted calf? I'm the one who's been responsible. I've built. I have preserved. I am the one who's put all this energy in. And yet, where's my fatted calf? Where's my robe? Where's my ring? Where's my sandals? And what's the father's response? My son, everything I have is yours. All of this is yours. You don't have to earn it. You're with me. You're always with me. I am with you. I won't leave you or forsake you. And you're an inheritor of this. This is available. You have access now, and you will have access in the future. That's the experience of living like a son and heir, knowing that it's there through relationship. I have access to the things that I need right now, even some of the things that I desire right now. And yet, what's more important is what's coming in the future. Even more is coming in the future. All creation, we learned in Romans 8, is crying out for the revelation of the sons of God. And yet, whatever we experience in this life, it's not that it pales in comparison. It's that it's not even close to the fullness. So any moment we're feeling wealth in this life, it's not even close to the fullness of what is coming, to what we are an heir of, to what we are going to inherit. It doesn't even touch. It's just the beginning. It's just that first $1,000 that I deposited at Smith Barney back in the late 90s. It's just the beginning. These places where we feel the protection, the covering, the joy, the relational well-being of being covered and protected. That's just the beginning. More is coming. You will inherit even more. That's what's on offer. That's what's coming. And it's not just for possession and for my benefit. It is redemptive in that it is literally going to change the lives, the relationships, the world around me. That's what the Son of God came to do. That's what we are invited into as we step into and come to this table of sonship as sons of God, that we are now with the Father, with the Son, seeing the world redeemed, seeing things changed for good. That is the wealth that we're invited into. Friends, hope you enjoyed that episode and are taking things away from our field note. Check out our next episode. It's going to drop. It's going to be a conversation on this topic, but more wisdom coming and more stories coming from two Canyon Pathways brothers, Sherman Bradley, who's going to host a conversation with Patrick Rooney, and I don't want you to miss that. So check that one out when it drops. Also check out the show notes for links, as well as a PDF with discussion questions if you'd like to use this episode for personal reflection or in small group meetings. Subscribe so you catch all these episodes as they drop, as we continue to develop a language of sonship through this podcast. Thanks to the team at Maroon Harpoon for producing this episode, and to our donors who make this venture possible. And as always, thank you for being a part of this Canyon Pathways community as we together live like sons and lead like fathers.